through workshops, and I'm glad that this is one of the webinar today. And our third objective is to assist in the resolution of disputes affecting the members of the community. So basically, as an advocacy committee, the committee aims to create supportive, informed, and harmonious environment for female lawyers. And our efforts is to basically ensure that the interests and destination of information are well passed across the nation, and we are extended to different sites. So this morning, we're going to be looking at a very interesting topic, which is overcoming barrier and building a growth strategy. So today I have with us our coach. She's also going to be our keynote speaker in person of Kemi. And I'm just going to be reading her profile shortly. So the way this webinar is going to run today, we're going to have a keynote speaker who is also our coach. So she's going to coach us on this topic, and then she's going to be discussing different issues. What are the challenges women face? How can we overcome? And then we're also going to be going into the panel session. Okay, so Kemi Sope Agbebi is a female coach. Kemi Sope Agbebi, fondly called KSA, holds an MBA from West Texas A&M University, United States of America, and has a bachelor in pharmacy from the University of Lagos. She's a key board member of 3 startups offering strategic guidance and leads board with KSA, a prominent mentorship program for young professionals. She heads the coaching team at Room 707, where she supports over 300 individuals globally. The Catching Them Young project has positively impacted more than 1,500 students. Through her bold, becoming open-minded, limitless, daring program, she connects business professionals across the globe. As a certified clarity and mindset coach, KSA is dedicated to helping people recognize their intrinsic value beyond external achievements. Our coaching approach focuses on celebrating each person's unique worth and existence. KSA expertly balances her professional success with a fulfilling family life. She's married and a mother of 3, reflecting her dedication to both personal and communal growth. On this platform, I would like to welcome our coach for today, Kemi Sope Agbebi. Thank you, Kemi, over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Tolu, for that warm introduction. And good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. All protocols duly observed, right? I am grateful for the honor to be in your midst and to be on the platform.
Tolu, what's up?
Okay.
Looks like you dropped off.
I think she dropped off. Maybe it's a network. Let me try and reach out to her. Okay, so I think it's the network. She's going to be back with us shortly. The network. Yeah. Okay, so whilst waiting for Ms. Kemi to join us back, it's very interesting to know that in today's world, today we're going to be looking at the highlights of today, what we should be expecting before she comes back, but understanding gender disparity, explore current statistics and the impact of gender inequality on career passion. How do we cultivate a growth mindset, basically to discover the techniques of developing resilience? Okay, good. You're back. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. Over to you, Kemi.
Yes, I want to apologize for that. You know, the internet just took me out. Yes, so I'm very passionate about this topic because I've had my fair share of barriers, and I'll give a very brief intro into that right now. You know, being born into a family of three girls, right? My father wanted a son so much that he didn't expect so much from us. So I grew up hearing things like, I don't expect anything good to great to come out from you guys. Almost like the limitations were there. I literally got into school. I started working from a very young age as a teenager because I was scared that at some point my father might stop paying my education fees. So I was studying really hard. I was studying really hard because I wanted to prove my father wrong. So yes, I got into pharmacy school and finished with the first class. From year one, I was already into like I got maybe like 5 scholarships, you know, from different organizations, Chevron and thereabouts. Thank God for organizations like that. So I literally got some something where I sponsored myself through school, right? And then finished with the first class. But it was all because I wanted to put my father.
Someone needs to mute, please. Please, can we all stay muted so that we can hear our keynote, please? Please go ahead. Kemi, you need to unmute. I think maybe the admin muted everybody. Yes, so we didn't hear you for the last maybe
so
10
I think I'm
seconds.
doing that. I've unmuted her. Yes,
Okay, great.
Okay, Kemi.
So who believes that I literally used to rehearse over a mirror how I wanted to embarrass my father on graduation day. You know how they call the best student to, and then I wanted it to be a massive embarrassment because I just felt like the pressure of him not having a son, he had passed it on to the kids, and he would say things like, "Idiot, I don't expect anything to come out from you," right? And so the only thing I was finding and fulfillment was academics. And yes, I was soaring and all of that. I would avoid going home. I didn't like my mom because I felt like, why did you marry somebody like this? So I just was studying. I was lucky enough that my perception of my reality then, I was pushing it towards even a positive area. So I believe, I always say that the devil lost the battle, because some other people will find solace in drugs, they will find solace in the wrong association. So you're into sexual addiction and all of those things. All of those things, I didn't really find meaning in it. I was studying books. I was reading books and I did well. And then, I didn't embarrass him, by the way, when the day came, but eventually I got a good job and was doing well. And I realized at some point that it seems like I'm just trying to prove a point, right? Unfortunately, my father is late. Before he passed, we also, of course, mended our relationship and all of that. But I got to a point when I realized that, hey, I'm constantly fighting to prove a point because I'm a child. I'm a female child. And I'm born with the kind of unique differences that I was born with. Limitation. In the first place, we are not even from a well-to-do family. So I went through public schools, it was a lot. So to add to all of those limitations already, right? Then I'm female. I am female, not only that I'm female, then I'm not even getting the support from the person that is supposed to be supportive to me at that point. And thank God, maybe I didn't find it in another guy or things like that. But yes, you constantly are exposed to these barriers because you're female. Then I get into the organization. I'm a first class graduate. Number one, it wasn't easy for me to get the kind of job I wanted. I'm a first class graduate. I'm pretty smart. And then certain people started finding a lot of intimidation in that. And I remember that my very first major job, the first 2 weeks, the boss was going to sack me, right? This man literally came from the UK. He's British, right? He came to Nigeria to set up a hospital. And for some reason, he was intimidated by me. I was a fresh graduate pharmacy student because I remember on one occasion, he wanted me to sign a check and I didn't.
She's a pharmacist, right?
Yes, I am a pharmacist. So I didn't want to sign the check and he was surprised that I'll be that bold and I have this small frame, to tell him that, oh, I'm sorry, that's against my value system. He didn't believe that a fresh graduate, a young girl, would be that bold. And so he called a senior colleague to come and warn me. Literally, the senior colleague came and said, your boss reported me to you. This is 2 weeks into this job. And I'm like, okay, why wasn't he talking to me directly, right? And when it was done, I went to his office. This is someone that usually people don't go to his office. In fact, as I was entering, the receptionist, the PA stopped me and said, Kemi, I like you. You're the only one that is very bold to enter Dr. Paul's office. So I got in there and I told him, sir, I had this conversation with this person. I want you to know that the reason why I insisted on not signing the check is because it doesn't align with my value system and all of that. He couldn't look at me straight, but he was still trying to be a bit upset, But as I was leaving, he said something I will never forget. So this is about 13, 15 years ago. I opened the door and then he said, Kemi, thank you for having the courage to come and talk to me. That was the end of my issue with my boss, that this is a very difficult man. He's a perfectionist to the core, When I joined the company, we were 7 of us that were recruited. Within 3 months, the 6 people were all like, there was only one left because I somehow found a way. Yeah, I was the only one left after 7. He sacked 6 people. He's a perfectionist. I learned my detail. I'm very detailed. I'm a very detailed person. And you find in this message, in this presentation, I was also raised by teachers, so you can imagine. So I learned a lot from him, but he sacked the other 6 people. But from that experience that day, we were able to work together, and he gave me maximum respect till I left. All right, so that's a great introduction. I want to share my screen now into just a background of this conversation and why I'm really excited about it and we getting to this point. So the barriers are constant. Why are they barriers in the first place? The definition of barriers, the integrity of that, means that it's something that needs to be overcome. So there are 2 things that verify the integrity of a barrier. One is that it can limit you. It has the potential to limit you. Number 2 is that you can overcome them. There will not be an overcoming if there's no barrier. So whatever it is, that definition itself, I want to share my screen. If you can give me the right to do that while I'm speaking. Yeah, so one of the integrity of that definition of barrier is that 1, it can be overcome. Number 2, it can limit you. So at every point in time, you have to decide on what side of the barrier you want to be. But that barriers, denying that they exist, invalidating them is unnecessary, is almost a waste of time. So barriers are real, they exist, right? One of the reasons, the objective of setting up this meeting is, of course, to be on that side where we are learning about how to overcome them, but they do exist. So I'll share my screen. In the interest of time, I hope that I have time to go through my entire screen, my entire slides. However, Tolu, if you could just let me know 5 minutes to the end of my presentation so that I can just go to the last slide. Okay, so can you see my screen right now?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Awesome. So yes, we're talking about overcoming barriers and embracing a growth mindset. Thank you for that wonderful introduction of me. I'm a clarity and mindset coach. Tolu already did all of this. What led me on this journey, of course, is the uniqueness of the path that I had faced in terms of having to constantly deal with barriers, both internal and external. One of the things that I want to also, in quotes, educators on, permit me to use that word. It's not that it's because I'm a professor or anything, right? Is that barriers can be in 2 forms, internal and external. And in the past 3 years that I've been coaching people, I can tell you that the internal ones are stronger than even the external ones. So yes, we are going to talk a bit on the external barriers in terms of the gender bias and all of those organizational limitations. But the greatest one that can actually happen to you is the internal, the one that comes from internal. So I'm going to spend majority of the training session on that, overcoming that internal barrier. And like I said, this journey is as a result of the uniqueness of my part. Unfortunately for me, I did everything to prove my father wrong. Now he's late. And I did everything to make my mother happy, but she was not even present to enjoy all of that. So she's also late. I lost my mom like 6 years ago, right? At the point when things started booming for me, and we're going to travel together and things like that, because, goodness, that woman, women, we try. I think let's pause to give ourselves a round of applause, honestly. I'll pause to give ourselves a round of applause. Yeah, we do amazing things. My mom is the reason why I'm where I am today. I'm even able to overcome these barriers. It was the strength that she gave to me and that I saw her display. I remember on one occasion where I was a tiny girl. I got into school at age 15. My first, because you're smart at Yaba Tech before I went to Unilag. And I remember on one occasion, I was coming back from school. They were expecting me, she was expecting me maybe 2 o'clock or something, and I didn't come back till late evening. And that's my first time of going to Yaba Tech. So she was wondering, why did I send this girl to this place? But I met her, she ran to me on the road and carried my box on her head. I will never forget that moment, right? Unfortunately, she's not here, but that's part of the things I had to deal with as well. Also grief. That was my greatest struggle so far. Every other barrier that people talk about, I'm like, you people will be all right, right? But today I don't have my mom here, I don't have my dad here and all of that. That's why I said internal barriers can be your greatest limitation. You don't learn to actually overcome them. So these are the house rules. Please active participation, respect other people's opinion, etc. When you get to the Q&A session, mute your microphone, please. If you can, keep your camera on. Let's share, let's engage, let's be open-minded. I tell people this, that there are two ways in which people can get influenced. One is through manipulation, and you even have motivation under manipulation. The second one is through inspiration. The difference between inspiration and manipulation or motivation is that inspiration inspires you to take action. And I'm hoping that at the end of this presentation, it is that I have actually been able to inspire you, because you will learn to take active steps. So this is not just another webinar that will come and listen, we see beautiful women, we ginger ourselves, and we go back. Let my story be an inspiration for you, because I've had really, really, really hard things that people that will really survive.
Okay.
And then you're a woman as well. And then you are black. You're a black woman. Oh, anyways, let's go ahead with the presentation. So I always like to start my presentation with powerful quotes like this. Number one, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, the authentic person. I like something that Ms. Okocha said earlier, where you've gone to school for a world degree and then people just expect you to be at home and be a wife and a mother. Why? Is that your authenticity? Is that what your value system? Is that what makes you fulfilled? You must never lose your why, regardless of how realities help you or try to panabit it for you. I'll use panabit, right? But the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And finally here, I would say that the only journey is the journey within. If you win on the inside, you will definitely win on the outside. It's more easier once you have overcome the internal barrier. By the time you get out there, all of the confidence and all of that, you overcome the rest. Okay, yeah, 5% of the CEOs of the Fortune 500 companies in the world are women. Why can't that 5% be you, right? That's it. That's my belief. I'm targeting 1%. Okay, so 5% is even too low, I think. Anyway, this is what to expect. We'll learn how to cultivate a growth mindset while aligning our career goals with personal values. Learn how to boost self-confidence and self-awareness for career advancement, to maximize our personal and professional potentials, as well as to overcome barriers to navigate workplace dynamics. I'm going to try to rush through this. Now, this is the why. There's one of my favorite books ever. It's called Start with Why by Simon Sinek. You have to always know why. Why do you stop it? Why do we need to overcome?
Not the fence.
Okay, somebody needs to mute, please.
So, by the authority saddled with the responsibility of looking after his land, after looking after all lands in the state is
maybe you muted. Okay, great. So I already spoke about how barriers are real. They exist so that they can be overcome. That's why don't struggle with why are there barriers. No, wrong question. The quality of the question determines the quality of the solution that you are offering. So your problem is not that there are barriers, that they are there so that you can overcome them. And two of the ones that we are going to be eating on a lot is gender disparity and, of course, biases. One is self-bias, and then there's unconscious bias. Number two, why? Because it's easier to actually exhibit a fixed mindset. It's easier for people for you to accept status quo and say, people should tell you that, see, when a woman finishes school, you belong in the kitchen. It's easier to belong in the kitchen than to be facing organizational dynamics, right? Than to be a lawyer. Look at you, spend 5 years in school, you have to go to law school, and you're dealing with a boss that doesn't, say you have been in the kitchen, right? It's easier, right? But, so it's easier, but what we are targeting is a growth mindset, because a growth mindset is ready to face challenges, right? So it's easier to embrace the expectation of the systems that surround you. There are things when they tell you, there are things that a woman cannot become and things like that. Number 3 is that your career advancement is hinged on consistently overcoming barriers and obstacles. As a matter of fact, your best self will never emerge without barriers. Your best self will never emerge without barriers, right? It's key. When you even see barriers next, be excited that, okay, this is an opportunity for me to innovate or to consider how best to overcome it. Again, when you see barrier, think overcome, don't think limitation, right? So I have a quote here. I say that it is always about the next step. We must not allow a history rob us of the magic of the future, nor permit our past experiences to limit and define our future expression. Very powerful. I came from Abule Egba, but today I've had the privilege, I lead a global company, travel the world as well. But I came from Abule Egba. I came from a place where I'm wearing slippers. When I'm going to school, I wash my leg. My first job, I wash my leg because I go into mud. Then I take pure water and wash my leg so my shoe can be clean, right? That's my background. My background was even parents, people don't go to school, they don't go to university. It's child pregnancy, early pregnancy, and things like that. I bought my first car when I was in NYC. And I remember when I bought the car, my father said, you have to pack it for 1 year because Ojumako, that's Yoruba, that's the eyes will be plenty on you. That can a couple be riding a car. And I told him, why would I buy a Camry and cover it up? And I started driving it as a cover. This is a place where they don't have cars. Even the parents didn't have cars. But I came from that background. But all of my history must not rob me of the magic of my future. And what determines that is my next step. What am I going to do from now, from this conversation going forward? All right. So, and that brings us to the how. How? Number 1 is gaining knowledge, which is good. A platform like this is for us to just create awareness surrounding this, understand that gender disparity exists, and also some of the prevalent challenges that women face at the workplace and how it can impact on career, passion, and motivation. So you know that it's not unique to you. Some of the struggles, your boss doesn't just like you, you're not getting promoted. It's not unique to you. These are global, some of the statistics I'll show you are global statistics. It's happening in America, in Europe, and thereabouts, right? But how much more as a Black person, there's additional layer on that, right? We have our cultural issues here, right? So how again is setting up value systems after you have acquired knowledge, then you set up value systems. You see, all of these things that I'm going to discuss, I don't like, as a coach, I focus a lot on the solution as against the problem. Yes,
so there's an NBA women's forum thing that I just saw the other time.
So let's move on. And I remember.
I'm with you, sir. Good morning.
Someone needs to mute. Someone needs to mute, please.
All right.
Yeah, Kemi, you can continue.
Yeah, you've acquired the knowledge. Next is to build value system. All of the problems that I'm going to identify, the statistics I'm going to show you, it's not to scare us, it's not to make us feel like, oh my God, I will never get there to that 5%. No. It's also to understand how intentional we have to be about the kind of changes or the growth that we want to see, whether in career or in our personal lives, right? So one of such is creating a value system. If I do a random check now, how many of us have value system? But I'll come to that because this is a training. So I'll come to that, actually how to set up value systems, both personal and professional. And next is setting goals. I'm going to show you all of this training. Building resilience and adaptability. Resilience and adaptability. I remember when I became the country head of my previous company, I heard people saying, she's too young. How come she's country head? She won't be able to do it. Are you sure she can do it? And things like that. Fortunately for me, the first 2 months, the figures were dropping because my strategy was different from the previous person, right? But afterwards, everything just started skyrocketing, right? They were going to replace me initially because that 2 months that the figures were falling, we told the Kemi cannot do it, she's too young. You hear all manner of things, but stay true to your bad parts and be confident in your own abilities. No one can steal that away from me. That confidence, no one can take it away from me. And over time, I just started seeing massive results. And before you know it, then my team is winning the best team. I mean, I was leading the largest business unit in the company, right? And the results were sporadic. And then they started asking me, how are you doing? And all of that. Intentionality, resilience, self-awareness, confidence. You cannot replace these values. They are very, very key. Addressing biases and stereotypes, continuous learning and self-development, definitely, and embracing a growth mindset. Let me talk a bit more on this continuous learning and self-development. Of course, I knew I came from Abule Egba, but I'm not of Abule Egba. What I was seeing, my vision is a global vision. And so I knew that, see, if I went to local schools, the one that my parents can afford, the next one has to be a global education, right? And it was a lot for me at that point. I had applied to Unilag. They gave me for MBA. The day of the exam, I didn't go for it. I said, this is not me. This is not what I want. What I want is an international education. And I didn't go for the exam. That's Unilag. Then I went to apply for to an American school, got scholarship. I was 8 months pregnant by the time I was doing my final courses. There are times, because it's America, so the time difference is different, was an issue because COVID now hit. So, I was back home in Nigeria and doing it. So in the middle of the night, I didn't have day and night. I'm carrying 8 months pregnant, I'm pacing around because I don't want to sleep and studying. At some point, I asked myself, who sent you this message? This is my third child. Who sent you this message? They didn't tell you to do MBA in school. But if you always remember your why, and that's why this quote says, if the why is powerful, the how will be easier. It's by Jim Rohn. If your why is powerful, the how will be easy. Now people tell me, how do you combine having 3 kids, doing all these things? You're a coach. I have a professional life. I'm a pharmacist, right? And all of that. How do you combine it? You're a power woman. Oh my God. They don't understand the level of sacrifice that it requires to be in these shoes right now, right? But if you understand your why, if your why is powerful, the how will be easy. All right, so I'll go to my next slide here. So let's talk about gender disparity. Let's talk about the problems a bit, and then we'll go into the solutions, right? One is that women earn less than men for the same work. This one is unacceptable. Me, I will not accept it for myself. But it's easy to say, I will not accept, if you don't have value, if you don't have confidence, you will not be able to communicate this effectively to whoever needs to ensure that this does not happen to me, right? So, but this is standard, this is global. I'll come to the statistics on the next slide. And then you see that women are underrepresented in high-paying fields. So you think about STEM, like I mentioned earlier on, only 5% of the top CEOs, Fortune 500 companies are women. So we are underrepresented. We have limited leadership representation. We have limited access to credit and financial resources. And there's that social and cultural disparity part where people just want to sexualize women, and, as well as give us certain stereotypes of where exactly you should be, how exactly you should be there, and how you should even dress there, So all of this social and cultural disparity just puts a lot of emotional burden on women who are naturally emotional. And before you know it, it's like, well, let me just face my children. Let me face my children. At some point, people just give and say, let me face my children. I thank God for my children. Let me face my family, right? And they just want to give up, right? Political disparity. You see underrepresentation of women in politics generally. And women tend to face slower promotion rates and more career interruption. By the time, like me, I have 3 kids. By the time you go for 3 maternity leave, you come back, they promoted everybody. And then you come back and like, the cycle has passed. You have to wait for the next cycle, right? And then even when it comes to promotion, they're already thinking there's unconscious bias that if you give her this role, how is she going to manage doing this as well as managing her family as well? She has 3 kids, you know. In 2024, this is happening live and direct. And I'll share some true life stories of people, right? And then you have I already talked about maternal bias, emotional labor. We're already emotional people, so this just had more labor on us. Then there's tokenism, there's harassment, and then there's discrimination, and you having to face double standards, right? This is what statistics looks like. Real problem, real barriers, but not some unsurmountable, right? Women earn 77% of men's salaries globally, right? That's all of us now. We're only earning 77% of men's salary. If you search the highest paying CEOs in the world, you never see a woman. It's not a woman, right? Women only hold 22% of managerial positions, right? 55% of women in vulnerable or informal employment, okay, because they just want to settle based off stereotypes. They'll say, don't go into engineering, don't go into civil engineering, you're a woman, don't go into all manner of things, right? Women hold only 23% of STEM degrees. So if you are here and you're interested in any of the STEM, it's not too late, please, in case they've told you anything different in the past, right? Women are 1.5 times more likely to fall into depression. Again, as a coach, I've seen this. But in fact, this figure is small. What I have seen, 90% of the people that I've coached, so the 300 people that went through our program, maybe 90% of them were actually women, because we are fundamentally emotional beings. So you see, everybody you want to give everywhere. Imagine that you're a tank and you are releasing to your family, to your husband, to your children, to work, then a difficult boss, then they've not promoted you, just pulling out of you everywhere. If you don't have enough refuel or a good support system to refuel, it can be a lot of emotional burden. And you find women actually depressed. Most women are not happy, trust me. 1 in 3 women experience physical or sexual violence. Yeah. I think that out of the 300 people that I've said, sexual case would be, I agree with this figure in terms of 1 in 3 women have actually experienced physical and sexual violence, because I just realized that, wait, at some point, literally all the ladies that were reaching out to us were at some point abused, even as children, as far back as age 6. And then I'm wondering, how did I escape all of those craziness? Because it's like everyone I was talking to was exposed to it, right? And it doesn't stop there. Then you get, and what I've realized is that once you've been exposed to abuse as a child or way back, you have a history of it, there's a chance that you will experience it again. So every abused person I've spoken with or counseled or coached, maybe it wasn't their first time. It was either 5th, 6th. It just keeps happening to the same person. I don't know, maybe something actually positions you to now be quite naive. You don't want to speak out, and it's difficult for you to build your self-confidence back, right? Women only hold 24% of parliamentary seats in the political office. Just imagine. Yeah, look at our House of Assemblies and all of that. Few representation. So this is a call to action for all of us as well, especially if you are here and you're still interested in politics. Don't say it's a dirty game. It's for men. There's nothing like that, right? Especially after at the end of this call, we'll not be talking like that, right? I hope I have your support. We would not be speaking like that, because it starts with our communication as well, right? Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So, which is why majority of the training will go into us personally, the intrinsic values, right? So we see 1 in 5 women have never participated in decision-making processes. You won't believe that even in your married women, between husband and wife, that's 2 people. It's difficult for you to even be a decision maker. They experience it in marriage, in the institution of marriage, where it's just 2 people. How much more when you have a congregation of 5 people, or a management team with 3 men and 2 women, or 4 men and you're the only woman? You know, men have ego in abundance, typically. So you find yourself in a management team with men and you're speaking, You can get things like you are speaking when we are speaking. Who told you have the permission to speak, right? But even in marriage, you see that you don't have addition. And guess what? We are usually wiser. I hope I have witnesses. They are usually wiser than the men. So they make mistake and then they come back to you and say, hey, come and help us deal with the mess. So you're the one dealing with the mess to save the family's image. Yeah. So yeah, 1 in 5 men have never participated in decision-making processes. I mentioned this already. Fortune 500 CEOs are women. Women are 47% more likely to experience workplace harassment. Yeah. Women hold only 15% of executive positions. Women are 22% less likely to be promoted to manager. Now, we've identified these statistics. These are the ones I isolated. These are the problems, right? Again, how I started this, when you see problems, when you see barriers, is because it should tell you that, oh yeah, what's the next step to actually overcoming? Because the power is always in the next step. So we have seen all of this. And this is what we are faced with. I have 3 girls. So I am fighting the war so they don't have to experience some battles. They don't have to go through the same battles that I experienced as a female child growing up with the kind of realities that I experienced. And so when your decision to overcome these barriers is beyond just you, it's beyond just you. Is you paving the way for the next girl child? Is you paving the way for your daughter? Is you paving the way for the next female law graduates coming behind you so that they can identify you as a role model, which is one of the things I will also speak on, right? Because there are very few role models that women are looking up to. If it's only 5% up there, and women are even more than men in terms of population, right? So who are the role models, right? So the decision to overcome this barrier is beyond just you. It's for your children, for the next female law graduates, and all of that. And gradually, when we are educated, we are aware of what is facing us, then we start getting intentional about how we actually want to build systems around us to overcome these barriers. You've cleared the path. The kind of barriers that my daughter will face is not the kind of barrier I'm facing today. And that's the same way, even in the law community, right? Why should we be dealing with the same issues 20 years ago? In my time, it's not a thing of pride, though. If your parents say, in my time, I didn't have a phone, it's not a thing of pride. You are just extending barrier to your children. No. So it's beyond you, it's for the next generation. I think I have an issue here. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. I think I have an issue with this slide, but it's okay. So yeah, I was talking on impact on career passion. So one of the things that I was addressing earlier on is how there are lack of role models and positioning yourself to be a role model. And you should have a role model as well. Somebody that you just think about and then you're like, you know what? Yes, I can do this. If they did it, then I can do it. So yes, I'm positioning yourself as a role model as well. Number 2 is that it limits the career choices of women because of the stereotypes and the bias. And I'm just going to open my notes because this is, and once, yeah, because of the gender stereotypes and biases, it sometimes limits or influences career choice. How many of us really wanted to study law? Really? You wanted to study law? Okay, yes, you have studied the law now. How many of us are actually happy that we are practicing law, right? Not that my parents said I should study law and things like that, right? So yeah, we have limited career choices. We have you're faced with unconscious bias as well, which can affect your performance evaluations, promotions, and opportunities. Some of these things are things that we're already experiencing here, right? And then you have issue balancing work and life, because we tend to bear more of caregiving responsibilities, making it challenging, right, to balance work and personal life. Imagine that I have 3 children. Oh my God. It's a lot, even coming for this one, this particular event. So, mommy, where are you? I've had maybe 300 questions before 10 o'clock, right? There are 3 of them, right? And I have work and I have life, my life, So it's always difficult to balance work and life, but it's not impossible. It requires intentionality. I have a solid bond with my children. They understand when mom is busy. Like now, you never hear them knock because I've said, see, I'm in a meeting for 2 hours and I don't want any form of disturbance, right? So it's not impossible. And then I have here, okay, I spoke on lack of role models as well. Lack of support for career development. It's, sorry, I think I've read it wrong. Sorry. Yeah. This one, self-doubt and imposter syndrome. So we are talking about how it impacts on career, passion, motivation, and growth. Then you start doubting yourself. Imagine all those years that my father told me, you're an idiot. Nothing good can, I wish I had a ball. Nothing good can come out from a girl child. Hey, it's easy for me to say it now. You can see me as a confident person. I was not always confident. I didn't believe that I belonged in certain tables. Now I've had the privilege to sit amongst kings, amongst top people. But when it first started, I doubted myself. I had this imposter syndrome. It's a constant, you see, life itself, as barriers, is a constant battle for your life. So it was work, it was sacrifice, it was hard work, it was intentionality. And I'm only saying this because if you're listening to me and you're ever experiencing imposter syndrome or you're experiencing, the experience is not what disqualifies you. It's what you do about it. Always remember that it's not always about what happens to you. It's really how you interpret your experiences and what you do about the things that happen to you. So women tend to doubt their abilities, feel like imposters due to internalized gender biases, and which tends to affect their confidence and passion. And then you see that it goes into stereotypes threats as well. Women may feel pressure to conform to gender expectation, suppressing their authentic interests and passions. Suppressing their authentic interests and passion. I just wish that maybe after today or after this meeting, you have a book for you where you go and write what your authentic interest and passion is. Whether you have a template or not, whether there's currently a role model for it. Let's even start from there. Let's start from there, write the vision, make it clean. And that's your vision board. That's one of the exercises I'll take us through today, and in terms of creating a vision board for ourselves, right? And then just running over it here, emotional labor as well, in terms of impact on career, advancement. Women tend to perform more emotional labor, managing other emotions and other people's emotions and expectations. Your husband, your children, your boss, just before you know it, you are a tank of just managing emotions, and it's easy to just want to give up, right? I wrote here that by acknowledging and addressing these disparities, we can actually empower ourselves to pursue our passions and reach our full potential. And which brings me to my next slide, where we're actually going into the proper training, right? Roadmap to a growth mindset. Now, there are several approaches to overcoming these barriers. One is education. That's the knowledge part I spoke on, and events like this. Number 2, one of the other ones is actually embracing a growth mindset, which is a subset of our topic today. And this is practical, right? This is part of my paid session, but I'm opening it up to you because I take the privilege very, very, it's an amazing privilege to be with you. So roadmap to a growth mindset, unleashing the power within, right? So this is number 1. Again, this is training and all of that. So we do some exercise and assessment here. maybe Tolu can help me to, because I can't see everybody on the screen. So can help me to just point out one or two people that we could get from. So number one, in terms of a roadmap, realize that we're saying a roadmap to a growth mindset says, reflect on your core values, your intrinsic values. This is the foundation. If the foundation is shaking, what shall the righteous do? This is the beginning of the solution to overcoming this barrier. Number one, reflect on your core values. One is even, do you even have core values? Have you identified your core values? So maybe you want to write that down actually. Again, like I said, have a book where we need to be intentional. You can see all the problems that we mentioned, the statistics. So we have to be very intentional. We can't be lazy. Sometimes I see that people are too lazy about investing in themselves and they want to see major results. No, big goals require big commitments, right? So yes, identify the values that resonate with your authentic self. These are your core values. Imagine that your life has this concentric circles around. You see that inside one is your core values, your intrinsic value. You need to, there's something they call locus of control. You have to control your life from the inside out. But you cannot give what you don't have. So if you are empty inside, what you will see is that your locus of control is more outside than it is inside. And so you're living outside in. That approach leads you on the path of depression, leads you on the path of imposter syndrome, leads you on the path of lack of self-confidence and every other thing that you can imagine. So you have to control your life from the inside out, from the inside out, you know. So your core value is that inside circle. There are other things that will go around it. We'll come to that, right? Now, the first activity I have here is one of the key things we always advise is self-reflection. For example, when I wake up in the morning, I take a 1 hour walk. My 1 hour walk is my power day. I have 24 hours in a day, but I don't just with that 1 hour walk. The kids are on break now, but usually I use that time to walk my kids. My kids' school is in the estate. So I walk them to school. We spend time to talk. I prepare them for school. I prepare their minds for school as I'm working, then I continue working. But that 1 hour is my reflection period. You need to have time to reflect on yourself. Where are you? Where intentionality? That's one thing I want you to take out from this. You know, so one I've isolated for this event is to say, these are a reflective exercise. If you ask yourself, if you had a chance to revisit a moment of your life or relive one day in your life, which day would it be and why? When you get into a reflective exercise or when you go on reflections like that, you don't hurry out of reflection. Reflection is deep. You have to search in. So again, I take that question again because Tolu is going to call somebody to just give us a feedback. Please, we agreed as part of the house rules that this will be very engaging. So if you had the chance to revisit a moment of your life or to relive just one day in your life, which day would it be and why? Okay. Tolu, please call somebody.
Okay, so Ngozi, would you like to go? Okay, so Ingigwe Chikodi. Ingigwe Chikodi, would you like to go?
We don't want to go. Okay, call the final person and then remove if we don't get someone.
Okay.
I wanted to do it.
Okay, Olushola Adeniro, would you like to go? Olushola Adeniro.
Somebody
okay, so I have somebody here, Alice. Alice's hand is up. So Alice, yes, Alice, you have the floor.
Alice, go ahead, please. Alice, please go ahead. You are muted, I think. Okay, yeah.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
question is which day or moment of my life I would like to relive. For me, I think it would be high school. Because then I had a lot of time to do things, but I think I did things with the mindset of a child. But with the experiences I have now, I think I would love to go back to high school to change certain decisions.
Wow. Thank you for that. You have broadened it because I wanted you to choose just one day. But I like that you.
For one day, maybe it would be when I was filling my jam form.
Which of your example?
My
Your
jam
final.
form.
Oh, your jam.
Yeah.
What was it about it? Like you would have loved to choose a different course or something?
Most likely. Most likely.
So you would have loved to study law. Interesting. Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
One of the reasons, thank you for sharing, Alice. One of the reasons why I asked that question. Okay, let me take Joyce Sunday and then I respond to it. Joyce Sunday, please unmute.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Very quickly, ma'am.
So if I want to relive a moment of my life, it would be when I was in law school. I was running a restaurant, and I remember I was going through financial difficulty constraints, and I was able to, open a Calabar kitchen. And during that period, I didn't even trust anybody. There was no one I could rely on. And I was running my business. I was going to classes. Sometimes I would close my business by 12 midnight, and I would just have like 2 or 3 hours to sleep. And then the next morning by 6 o'clock, I'm already up. I'm going to school. Like I was just like I had control of my life. So whatsoever profit I was making, I was confident. I was able to rely on myself. But now entering the workforce, like the labor market, like working in a firm, like I feel as if another person is the one that is having control of my life. Like I feel I can't even I can't really I'm not feeling confident the way I used to feel in the past. Like it's as if everything is just out of my control.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing and for that. You won't, the thing is, the way we say it as coaches, both of you have pointed at the same thing, actually, even though you were living different realities and you're actually looking at different timings. She talked about high school, you talked about when you were in law school. But both of you, there's a synchrony there, which is that you pointed out the fact that you felt like you were in control of your life. You could make decisions, right? But now it feels like somebody else is living. And this is the actual reality of many people today. And you know what is missing? What is missing is that locus of control that I mentioned earlier, and how you need to be intentional about living from the inside out. Now, it doesn't matter what has happened before this conversation. Again, what is key is what the next step is. Even if for the past 2-3 years, somebody else was living the life of Joyce Sunday and all of that. The day you wake up is your own money. The day you decide that, hey, I'm going to get my life back is your own morning. It's your first day. So how do you get your life back? Again, it's on this intentionality. You won't believe that all of those things, all of those experiences in the last 2-3 years or after law school might have been to bring you to this particular point now, your actual best self. You might imagine that when you were in law school was your best self. No, you are yet to actually meet your best self. Same thing with Alice, or when I was in high school. All of that is history, right? That you will utilize and remodel what your future would be. You can get your life back together. Number one, identify what your core values are. Take a moment in a day, 30 minutes, think about that law school period. What was it about me then? Why was I so confident? Don't be in a hurry with it. So that reflective exercise, even the high school lady Alice as well, think about it and from there, identify what your core values are. Next is practice journaling. Practice journaling and documenting your experiences and emotions linked to your values, right? So I'm encouraging you and every other person as well, let's get our life back together. Yes, we can. We can't be living as a shadow of ourselves. I was on an interview, on live interview once, and the lady said, how do I cope with being a mother to 3 children? I said, I'm not the same mother that mothered the 3 of them. Yeah, I expect myself to change. Transformation, I embrace transformation. I'm not the same mother that mothered 3 of my children. I'm not the same mother to them. I wasn't the same. By the time I had my first child, different challenges, the way I handled it was different. I had grown, I had transformed, I had encouraged myself to transition. And so when I had my second child, I was a different kind of mother. My third child, I was a different kind of mother. So it's okay. You can decide to change. If you are not happy with your life, you decide to change, right? Next is mindset audit, which is building, reflect on your core values. Identify it, and then you reflect on your core values, your intrinsic values a lot. In a day, devote time. You need to invest in yourself. Some of us are too lazy.
5 minutes more.
We have 5 minutes more. Okay.
Yeah.
We are too lazy about, let me see, 5 minutes more. Okay, good. We're too lazy about the changes that we actually want to see about in ourselves. So yeah, building the framework is mindset audit. So assess and reshape your thought patterns to cultivate a growth-oriented mindset. Activities here would be self-talk, right? Recognize and challenge your limiting beliefs. One of the powerful things about the growth mindset is you understand your strengths, you understand your weakness. I don't think there's any weakness someone will come and tell me now and say, what? I can never do that. No. So it helps me to embrace criticism a lot. Some of us cannot handle criticism. When your boss talks to you, you feel like you attach that feedback to yourself. You need to learn to separate your experiences from your person. If you failed at something, does not make you a failure. When you unify the experience and the person, you tend to react to it instead of responding to it. Your goal has to always be to respond to experiences as if they are separate from you, right? Then say a lot of positive affirmations to yourself. This is on mindset audit. And then construction begins when you begin to take bold decisions. Encourage yourself to step outside of comfort zones to take bold actions aligned with a clarified vision. Activities under this, you have fear setting exercise, address fears in doing progress. Courage, you need a lot of courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is taking decisions in the presence of fear. That's courage. You need a lot of courage, right? Taking decisions even in the presence of fear. Then you have action planning here. That's under construction. Structural strengthening. You establish habits and rituals that reinforce a positive and growth-oriented mindset. Establish habits. For example, I say every morning I will go on a walk 1 hour. Make it consistent. Make it a habit. Make it a ritual. I have to read 1 hour before I go to sleep. A book on personal development. I have to read a book on leadership. I have to read a book on this. Intentionality and make a habit out of it. Gratitude practice is an activity under this as well. I just want to run through this. Also, finally, celebrate your achievements, no matter how little they are. Like I'm celebrating being here now, right? So acknowledge and celebrate your accomplishment. Hey, you're a lawyer, for heaven's sake. It's a big deal. A lot of things might not be working for you right now, but you went through law school, you graduated, you literally graduated. Celebrate your accomplishments. Reinforce your positive patterns. When people try to talk that, you go back in your mind, well, no, but I did this, I did that. I'm a mother, I'm this, I'm that. So look at your positive achievements and celebrate it. Here you have big goals require big commitments. I talked about it here. I would like to take us through quickly this exercise on how to actually set goals, because people talk about goal setting, but they don't actually really know how to set goals, right? So ideally, this is not showing the way I wanted to show, but what you have here is when you are setting your goals, your goal setting, is one of the things I identified in the beginning. You divide them into this. Good, I would love to. Good, great dream. You see, those dreams are the ones that look like they're so massive, they're so big. How do I achieve them? So it's almost like short-term, near-term, long-term goals. Goal setting is an active process. It's not wishful thinking. You are thinking about it in your head. My goal is to be the best lawyer in the world. It's empty, right? So you go break it down to good, great, and dream. Let's see how many minutes. Okay, I think I have. Tolu, can I have 5 minutes to just round up extra 5 minutes?
Okay, but the extra 5 minutes would have been for the panel
questions.
session. Yeah, and then for question and answer. So we probably would have to just take one question for your training so that we can go into the panel session. So I will give you 3 minutes.
Okay, 3 minutes works. All right, so I'll run through this quickly. There's supposed to be here. This is a roadmap for self-discovery. Again, I said I was going to emphasize on developing the intrinsic value because I know that once you win the war within, it will be easier to win the external barriers. All right, which you mentioned. So quickly, here you have these big cycles. There's self-awareness here. There's mindfulness and reflection. These are powerful things. You could take them, these notes down. Seek knowledge and experiences. Travel, seek knowledge, read a book. You can't go 1 month without reading any book and adding value to yourself. Set bold goals. Set bold goals. Embrace your journey. Your journey, your history is unique to you. Your history is your wealth. No one can take it away from you. Nobody can use anything in my history to abuse me and say you. So you're KSA, you're KSA. You that I knew when you're in Abule Egba, you're wasting your time. You, I knew when you used to wear slippers. You don't even have slippers to wear. You're wasting your time. It's my wealth. I will be, yes, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of my history. So embrace your journey. Acceptance and empowerment. Accept your reality. Accept your history and start empowering yourself for the kind of future that you desire. And surround yourself with support system. You know, mentorship, coaching. I'm sure there are many people on the advocacy team that you could identify as mentor. You need to be very active. Somebody that you reach out to and say, oh, this is where I am now, this is where I'm going to. Could you help me with this? Could you help me with that? Active. Don't rest on, I don't know who is living my life. You need to be active, right? So I think I've touched on all of these. Practice mindfulness, set bold goals, surround yourself. And finally, you know, if you remember the quotes that I mentioned earlier, when I started, just to remind you again, how do you embrace bold transformations? The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Challenges are what make life interesting. Overcoming them is what makes life meaningful, right? Some people are just existing. They will come, enter life, and go out. No, we need to learn to live meaningful life. So overcoming challenges makes life meaningful. The only thing that's keeping you from getting what you want is the story you keep telling yourself and what you let people say to you. You know, the entire world was created by words, and the world will be destroyed by words, right? You, the word in your own life, you can create it by the words that you let people say to you and the words that go out of your mouth. Remember the things that we cannot be talking about, we can't be saying again after this meeting or this training. We can't be saying things like, those kind of things are not for women. No, if you hear anybody saying it around you, you fight it immediately, you silence them. The only journey is a journey within, you know, which is why I focus on that. And until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you call it fate. And yeah, I'll pause for questions. Thank you very much. It's been an amazing presentation.
Thank you so much, Kemi. I honestly don't want it to stop because I think this is supposed to be like a workshop, like we have a whole day for us to have this training. Well, thank you so much for accepting and delivering even within the 45-minute framework that I gave you. I believe that every woman on this call, on this webinar, have one or two things to say. The chat room has been buzzing and people have been saying a lot of things. It's like bringing it back to reality, right? So I'm just going to call on one person to ask question from our coach before we go into our panel session, because we also have a panel session where we want some two women to share their experiences. So we've listened to the coach. The coach has told us that for us, it's very important that we overcome barrier. It's when you overcome barrier, you know that you are moving to the next thing. So there's so many questions like why, she was talking about why, why barrier exists so that it can be overcome. So when you overcome that barrier, it's easier to exhibit a fixed mindset. Your career enhancement is constantly over you now. And then she went into how do we now develop a good mindset? She shared a lot of her experiences. So I would just like one person to ask question. Please just raise your hand if you want to ask a question, and then we can move straight to the panel session. I'm sure our panelists are also waiting to share the experiences, and then they will take us from where the keynote speaker has stopped, and she would also join as well, and we can call it a day. So anybody asking question? Okay. Let me just check here. Okay, so there's a question here, and this is for you. Why is it that some women have been passed through barrier challenges when growing up, still want to dish the same to women coming after them? So Kemi, so this person is asking that why is it that some women they pass through some challenges when growing up? Yeah. So I think you should continue.
It's because they never healed, hurting people will want to hurt other people. That's all. Which is why I said your decision to overcome the barriers that you faced is beyond just you. It's for the next person around you. You see, you'll be shocked that if you don't even overcome that barrier, if you don't overcome some of the challenges or some of the odds that you've experienced, you will easily replay it to somebody else. And that's it. It's a principle of life. Life is in cycles. You need to just end this cycle and decide that, hey, I need to heal from this. So many times, hurting people just want to hurt other people. It's the same way your parents will say, you want a phone. Me, when I was this, I didn't have a phone. Those are the things my father told me. He said, why do you want to, when I went to uni, like I went with maths. Why are you asking for all this? Anytime I go there, I need money for something, because that's what he experienced. And he felt like, why should you have benefits? This is even my father. How much more somebody you meet randomly at the office? So yeah, hurting people, in heal, hurting people want to hurt other people. That's all.
Thank you. Also, we also have Queen. Queen, can you just quickly go and so that we can start the panel session? Queen.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much.
Queen? Yes, can you proceed with your question?
Okay, yes, please. My question is this. You've mentioned a lot of things about barriers. Some barriers, you said the barriers in front of us are things that we should be able to, should I say, overcome and then get to the next level. There are barriers because the barrier is possibly a result. You have certain opportunities you would like to, certain places you would like to get to in your career, but your result is a barrier. How do you overcome that kind of barrier? Thank you.
Your result is the barrier?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain that a bit more? Like when, oh, okay. People tend to be intimidated by your achievements. Is that it?
No, ma. Okay, if you have certain expectations or certain goals, your dreams, there are places you would like to work, but then the result you came out of school with looks like
your school results.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I mean, that's a challenge, but it doesn't define you. Find other ways to add value to yourself. I told you, I mean, I finished with the first class, but it means nothing. It did not do anything to where I am. All the achievements that the results I eventually got were re-education I exposed myself to, and position. You see, what you need for life, they did not teach you in school. There's an education they teach you in school, and then there's a self-education. You need that one for the kind of success we're talking about here. Confidence, self-awareness, self-leadership. Very few people actually have these attributes. If you have this value, opportunities, you will attract opportunities once you position yourself for it. So you might think it's all about the company that you're desiring, but there might be much more for you. Focus on yourself for now. Yes, you finished with the third class, but how am I re-educating myself? Position yourself with confidence, pat yourself with all of these things, and you'll be good, right? There's nothing you can do about the result you finish school with. Don't stay on it, right? Start re-educating yourself. If already I've told you that less than 10 people, maybe 10 to 20% of people generally are self-aware, are very confident. That gives you a chance already. You might have lost at the point of school BSc results, but that doesn't mean you have lost in life. It's an experience that is outside of you. You have the opportunity to recreate yourself and to be your best self. Many of us have not met our best self yet. We are yet to meet our best self. If you define yourself based on the result you had in BSc, you've missed it. You are yet to meet you. There are some people, just as far as 3 years ago, they hear me on this call and they say, Kemi, is this Kemi? Hey, they'll be shocked. I get all those feedback every time on LinkedIn. But I just revamped myself, basically. And it started from here. It wasn't school. It wasn't MBA. It wasn't all of that. Those were secondary. The primary one was from inside. Yeah. So Queen, I hope I answered your question.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kemi. Once again, KSA, thank you so much for training us today. Indeed, you're a coach and we've learned one or two things, a lot of things. I'm sure that we have been able to address and also know that how we can overcome and most importantly, how we can be able to grow ourselves. And there's one thing that is holding on to me, said reflect on your values. The foundation is very important. So without wasting too much of our time, so I would like to call on our panelists because we're running in case time. So the first panelist I would like to call on is Adeola Olumeyo. Adeola Olumeyo is a distinguished strategic legal advisor and non-executive director with extensive expertise in policy development, corporate governance, ESG, compliance, legal risk management, intellectual property. Her role as a notary public and a certification as a board corporate governance auditor and trainer further underscore her deep knowledge and professional standing in the legal field. Adeola has demonstrated remarkable leadership by successfully guiding legal teams through complex transactions, including a landmark share acquisition for a major free-to-air platform operating across Africa. Her significant contributions to the industry are reflected in her pioneering role as chairman of the Middle East, Africa, South Asia Subcommittee of the Legislation and Regulation Committee at the International Trademark Association, INTA. Adeola's work in developing robust corporate governance policy for prominent organizations and influential positions on various boards aligns her commitment to excellence. Globally recognized with numerous accolades, Adeola Olumeyo has been named one of the top 25 global legal rising stars, one of the top 100 general counsel in Nigeria, and one of the top 50 influential women making significant impacts in intellectual property, among other honors. To this day, she continues to make impactful strides in the legal and governance sectors. Ms. Adeola Olumeyo, thank you so much for joining us today. We want to hear from your own perspective and experience being an in-house counsel, how you've been able to overcome the barrier, how you've also been able to make a lot of significant progress in terms of growing mindset. The second panelist for this morning will be Rasheedat Mohammed. Rasheedat Mohammed, also known as Bogu Woman, the youngest of 6 siblings from the family of Mr. Adams Mohammed in Kama local government area of Kwara State. Having obtained a Bachelor of Laws from Usman Danfodio University in Sokoto State in 2012, she was admitted to the Nigerian bar after completing her studies at the Nigerian Law School. Rasheedat Mohammed has made notable advancements in her career. First, she's currently the principal partner of Rasheedat Mohammed & Co. Rama Law Chamber, which is recognized as the first female-owned law firm in Sokoto and Kebbi states. Distinguished leadership roles encompassing serving as deputy head of the advocacy committee, she's an able deputy, and secretary of the MDA Human Rights Institute, and has the first female chairman of the MBA Sokoto branch. I think this is very laudable because it's just told us now that we should celebrate her achievement. So she's the first female chairman of the MBA Sokoto branch. Additionally, she has held prominent position as the immediate past secretary of both MBA Sokoto branch and the FIDA Sokoto branch, the immediate past financial secretary of Mulan, the public secretary of Mulan, and co-chair of the Sokoto State Sexual and Gender-Based Violence and Child Protection Right Task Force. Thank you so much, Mrs. Adeola Olumeyo and Ms. Rashida Mohammed. So we also have KSA. KSA, you're also going to be joining us on this panel session. And today we've learned a lot from KSA. She has trained us about how we can overcome barriers. She has trained us about how can we develop our growth mindset. She has made a lot of comments on how this can be possible, and that our history is your wealth, and we should be proud, accept our reality. And if your why is powerful, the how will be easy. Now, we are going to go into the session to hear from our panelists. We want to hear the experience. We want them to share the experiences that would also be beneficial to us. So, Ms. Adeola Olumeyo, this question is to you. In what ways can organizations help mitigate the negative effects of gender inequality on women's career position?
So I always say that you should always start with systems. An organization that does not have systems in place will just pay lip service to just trying to help women. So, and how do you have systems? You must have systems that bring women into the room, not just bring the women into the room, but also make sure that they have a seat at the table. Because sometimes you find that you give opportunities, and then those opportunities really all they do is just for you to tick a box to say, oh yes, we have a woman in this, we have a woman in that, you know. But actually what brings the impact and what helps to overcome those barriers is when the women are actually given a seat at the table. And that can only be done when the organizations have a system in place. Without those systems, you know, we're not likely to have that. And of course, I understand that this depends on the organization and the size of the organization. If it is a small startup, for example, you might not have very robust policies in place. But what you can do is then to make sure that that organization has that consciousness and is building that from scratch into what they have. So those kind of policies that we talk about should be policies in recruitment, equal pay, because if you're not even bringing the women in, so the policies on recruitment bring the women in, then equal pay, transparency in promotion, all of those things. It's also important that an organization's board, its executive committees have women also on the board and executive committees. Otherwise, you find that it's very easy to forget, you know, some of these issues. It's very easy to forget that women get pregnant. It's very easy to forget that they need to go off. It's very easy to forget that you can have flexible work arrangements where women can work, men can work from home, and the profits. In the organization where I used to work, Channels, one of the things that we did was we actually made sure that men go on maternity leave. We made it a policy. So you can't skip maternity leave. You can't get money for maternity leave. You have to go off. And that policy helped. Another thing that we did was we made sure that we were measuring. So every quarter, the HR will give us data that helps us to measure. So it's important, organizations, if you don't measure, you know what they say? What they say is, what you don't measure doesn't get done. But what you measure gets done and gets done well. And then what you reward, when it gets done well, of course, it means that you then get rewarded. If it gets rewarded, it gets repeated. So that's how I think that organizations can do that. Without those having people, women in the boardroom in decision-making committees, and also having systems in place. If you don't have that, we're not likely to find the organization make a lot of progress. It will just be International Women's Day. They'll put all the women, take pictures, smile, say cheese for the camera. And then, you know, when the women go back, they're still experiencing those issues. So that's my contribution in that.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I think that's very deep. The first thing you said is that it depends on the system and that there should be a structure in place, right? And then people should be able to have that feedback. And I think that's very important. So back to you, Ms. Rashidat. Ms. Rashidat, to you, what are the primary factors contributing to the current gender disparity in the workplace? And what solution can be implemented to address these issues? And the question is basically to you because of the fact that you are the one that started your law firm. You're the first female to have a law firm in Sokoto State. Now you are the first female to also be the MBA branch chairman in Sokoto State. So what are the primary factors to the current gender disparity in the workplace, and what solution can be implemented to address this? Ms. Rashidat.
All right. Good morning, or let me say good afternoon. Good afternoon, yes?
No, we're still in the morning. We're still in the morning.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My mommy, Chinyere, if you're there, I'm saying a very big good morning to you. It's been a while. All protocols duly observed. I want to really appreciate KSA for the insights, for being so amazing. In fact, I've learned a lot from her. And then I would say she has already captured everything around what we're going to be discussing. But it's a conversation that cannot have an end because, like she said, biases are always there. So we don't need to ask why are they there. The most important thing is how we overcome them. Well, my story is also somehow similar to hers. I can say most of the major factors that we have that contribute to gender disparity are ranging from cultural, tradition, and maybe religious misrepresentation. Well, I grew up from a society where women education is not even considered. I was supposed to, instead I became the first chairman of MBA Sokoto branch and the first also to have a law firm. I want to tell you that I've always been the first to start something in my extended family. I was the first female from my extended family to start a degree without getting married. And I remember then, like Kemi said, there are some words that when you are growing up as a child, there are certain things, certain statements that will come from your parents, your uncles, the society. And if you're not careful, those statements are so powerful that they can limit you. One of those statements was when I was struggling to write JAMB, and my uncle was, why do you want to write it? What is it about JAMB? And I was trying to explain what JAMB was, and I told him I want to study law, and he was like, oh, you want to study law for 5 years? I said, yes, uncle. He said, okay, you better get ready. When you study law, when you are done studying law, you come and marry your certificate of law. And I was like, what is this about this law? Does it mean that female lawyers don't get husbands to marry? And also when I was growing up, I was made to understand that some certain qualifications are meant for men, from my society anyway. Medicine, law, all these courses that are more attractive are meant for men, even though women are not even encouraged to go to school. But the few women that have gone to school study things like secretarial studies, courses like economics, commerce, and all that. So I told myself that for the fact that these things don't happen in my family does not mean I should be okay with that. It doesn't mean that everybody should be okay with that. Somebody have to start something. Everything that is happening in our life today was initiated by somebody. It started with one individual. And that was why I was so impressed when KSA was emphasizing on mindset. We have to have this mindset. We have to grow our mindset. So I told myself that I'm going to initiate this change. Though it's never going to be easy. It wasn't easy for me because at that time I was already fixed up with a man to marry after my secondary school. So I declined the wedding, the marriage process, and I said I want to go to school. But because I didn't have that support, I couldn't make it in my first JAMB. The second one I made it. Like I wrote JAMB several times. Some I don't get admission, so I don't even make it. So at a point I was left with no choice than to start with diploma. After my diploma, I wasn't getting admission. I went for advanced diploma because I was so determined to study that law. And sometimes this culture, tradition are so powerful that they impact our life. In fact, they tend to seem to want to determine what will happen in our life or how we live our lives. And when you are not careful, you will be left with no choice than to succumb to the pressure. So while the admission was not coming, at a point I actually wanted to give up. I said, okay, at a point I told myself that it mustn't be law. Okay, let me go for, because that particular period I got admission in the university for another course. And there was so much pressure on me because the family were still insisting that if I don't get married, then nobody was going to talk to me. I didn't have family, like everybody rejected me because I refused to get married. But something I kept on telling myself that no, I can't go this far and start backing now because of the societal pressure. So I insisted, and as God will have it, I gained admission into the university. Then that led me to another phase of life because already I had this I came from a place where marriage is so important. I'm not saying marriage is a bad thing, but the best thing that they could think of a female child is just marry. So I was eager to marry, to meet up with the expectation of my family. And I thought marriage would also be a saving space for me because I was living a very lonely life and a difficult life, having to do everything by yourself. You want to go to school, nobody is paying your school fees and so many things. So I felt, okay, marriage should be an escape route for a woman. And that was one of the biggest mistakes I made. I jumped into it. Now, that thing actually, I lost my self-esteem in the process. It actually limited me. KSA talk about positive mindset, positive self-affirmation. At that point, I was always, because I was made to understand that nothing good will come out of me. So, and I accepted that. I embraced that, okay, let me manage this marriage. It must not fail because this is the only thing I have to offer. A lady asked a question at the end of Kemi's presentation, talking about results from school. I also want to use this opportunity to tell you that your result does not define you. That certificate you see doesn't define you. I didn't come out with flying colors too, because it was so bad in that marriage that I was in 300 level when I got married. So throughout that period, 300 level, 400 level, 500, it was tough. And my GP was dropping up to the time I graduated. So at my final year, I wanted to withdraw because I felt it was a shameful thing for me to graduate with a particular grade, that it wasn't my dream. So I went to a particular lecturer that I want to withdraw from Faculty of Law. And he asked me why. I told him just what you said now, that your result, I told him that I can't come out with this certificate. And the man told me, in fact, that was when I got to know that late Gani Fayemi graduated with, I think, third class or first. The man just cited Chief Gani Fayemi as an example of your life is not revolved around your certificate. It's about you. It's about what you have in you. And the man used that to convince me to continue and even graduate with that certificate. Then I will go and make use of the best, the inner self. Because he said, Rashida, I've been seeing you, I've been watching you. You are so great, but you don't even realize it. There's a lot in you that you don't know. So it's not about the certificate. Now, I embrace that aspect that, okay, let me just go back and have this certificate anyway. Then when I come out, I'll make the best use of what I have in me. And that certificate issue, because it was obvious that I was going to graduate with a particular grade. The marriage was also, the threat from the marriage was coming because of that certificate. Okay, you can't make it in school, so I'm going to divorce you if you graduate with this. And I was scared. If there's anything I was scared of, was that divorce. But to me, it's not a good thing. It's not really, but I think that's the best thing that happened to me. Like one of the best things that happened in my life. And when I ended up with that result, he wasn't finding it pleasant to his status. How can I be this? And my wife graduated with this, and it became an issue. And at that point, he told me something that nothing good will ever come out of you because of this your result. And when we finally got divorced, I was skeptical about going to applying for jobs because of I was already meant to understand that result will not be accepted anywhere. But I also want us to know that as women, challenges are bound to happen, and I believe that any misfortune is a blessing in disguise. So, like I said earlier, that divorce was a blessing in disguise. So I came out, and in the course of searching for job, also there was a series of harassment and all that. And at a point, I made up my mind, I'm not going to search for job. I must also create one. And that was when the idea of having my law firm came about. Now, talking about leadership and the bias in leadership, as a Muslim woman, there is this misconception that women should not be leaders. But I disagree. There are certain leadership positions quite right that as a Muslim, I wouldn't even allow a woman to go into it. But then leadership, when we're talking about law, a professional body for that matter, I don't think there's any reason for a woman not to excel in this profession. Because in the first place, if you look at our bylaws, we were all regarded as men. If you look at the system, the setting of the profession, nobody is saying because you're a woman, don't write tests or don't write this exam. No. So if we agree that there is these biases and the factors are cultural, religious, and maybe religious misrepresentation and maybe tradition, and also the environment sometimes has a way of impacting our lives and limiting us. I think the solutions, number one, is like what I said earlier. Change begins with an individual. We can go for advocacy for as long as we want, for as many times as we want, but no matter how many times we have gone for advocacy or we've had webinars like this, if as individuals we don't believe in ourselves as change makers, then we will not be able to get the results we want. So as an individual, what is your mindset about this bias? We can't deny the fact that there is a bias. And we must acknowledge it, because if we don't acknowledge it, it's another problem. We must acknowledge that there is a bias, and it didn't start in our workplace. It's from our homes. Because I remember as a child, there are so many things I was denied doing because I was a female child. So it starts from our homes, our society, the environment, and it's not escalated to our workplace, because everybody in your workplace came from one background, religious background or the other, traditional background or the other, or cultural background or the other. So it's an individual mindset that we need to change. We have to embrace the fact that women also need to grow and women need to excel. Women can also be good leaders. We are naturally born to be leaders, except if we don't know the practical definition of leadership. Leadership is about decision making and representation. And as a sister, as a mother, as a friend, as a wife, you are taking decision every day that will impact somebody's life, and you are representing somebody every day. Everything you do is not about you. It's about it has a way of affecting people around you. So whatever action or decision you are taking is coming back to the people around. It means you are representing them. If I should do anything today, as the chairman of NBA, if I should do anything wrong today, they will start saying, oh, you see, we told you people that women cannot do. So it's like I'm representing women in that aspect. So leadership is purely about representation. And women are very good at representation. So we must not accept the fact that it doesn't happen. People will frown at it. So let me not go there. Then secondly, you see, when I came to Sokoto as a student, and
you have to, yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Rashida,
so
yeah.
I said it.
Yeah.
I said the first one is about
you have to round up.
Yeah, individual mindset. Then before I leave, I also want us to think about how we can talking the advocacy is a very good thing, but how can we start acting the advocacy? My experience, my line of work has exposed me to so many advocacy projects, both Sokoto and Nigeria as a whole. But then most of us that have gone for several advocacy, I've not seen many of us acting those advocacy. What I mean by acting the advocacy is, number one, be bold enough to come out and initiate a change. I was the first female to ever come out to contest for Secretary of NBA Sokoto branch. And I was offered other positions. I said no, because I know what I want. So I don't want to be given, I want to earn it. And it's come with hard work, resilience, determination. Like Kemi said, it won't come, you won't get it at the platter of God. So you must be ready for challenges. And I prepared my mind that, look, I'm ready to face this challenge. So it's one of the things I mean when I say acting the advocacy. So also when I came out for the position of chairman, I was called and offered the position of a vice chairman. I said, no, this is what I want and I'm going to work for it. And I got it. So this is what we should be thinking about when we are talking about, we are aware, we have acknowledged that there are biases, but what are the solutions? One, individual mindset. Then secondly, working the advocacy. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Rashida. It's always a pleasure listening to you, because you've given us those experiences from the practice point of view and how you've been able to overcome those barriers. And like you stated, right? There are biases. The question is, how do we overcome, right? And you've given us your own personal experience of how you've overcome it. And also, you've also given us the practical step. And the first thing you are saying here is that your individual mindset, what do you say you want to do? And the coach also said, reflect on your values. Where do you see yourself? You know, sometimes for me personally, I usually set goals for myself. I set goals of 3 years plan, 6 months plan, 5 years plan. And it gets to a point where as women, we become resilient. As women, we are not even ready to, take a no, because like you said, we are impacting our society. So many people are looking up to us. If it's not your parents, your cousins, your nephew, your niece, mentees, so many people around you. So I think this will take us to KSA. KSA, I would like you to, tell us, what are the practical tips for women to be assertive without facing negative repercussions? Now, if you listen to Ms. Rashida, she was offered vice chairman, right? But she said, no, I want chairman, and this is what I want. I'm going to go for it. So as a coach, I would like you to tell us, what are the practical tips for women to be more assertive without facing negative repercussions? Over to you, Kenny.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tolu. Thank you, Rashida. That was really amazing, very vulnerable as well. I think I already kind of like touched on it during my presentation. One is confidence. Believe in yourself, and don't wait, because you said practical tips, right? Don't wait to the point where it starts from your daily choices, right? Be that alert and aware, wherever you are. Don't wait until the point where you're having to contest for president and then they are giving you vice president. Because trust me, something that you are not used to particularizing or displaying, you will not be able to display it at that point. So from your daily choices, right? I'm a very assertive person. Some people find it intimidating. Some people, I don't know, but one way I've learned to also manage it is developing emotional intelligence skills, right? I've realized that, like I said, when you're getting to the top, it's no longer about IQ. It's more about your EQ, your emotional quotient, as against your intelligence quotient. I might have finished with the first, I don't remember that I finished with first class, because when you're getting to the top, leadership, now, it's more, emotional quotient is more valuable than intelligence quotient. You need to be able to communicate well. So like Rashida mentioned earlier about having to say, no, I don't want this. One, have the boldness to communicate, then have the emotional intelligence to communicate effectively, because that you could lose it at that point. You went with confidence, but you lost everything. You lost both the vice president and the president, because what you're saying is also as equally important as having the confidence to say it. So I think I'll just stop at those two because of time.
Thank you very much, KSA. Okay, so I think for this final session, because we are really running against that time, we have 1 minute left for this session. But before we close it, I would like Ms. Adeola Olumeyo to talk about, because she's an in-house counsel, now she's an executive director. So she has grown in the in-house practice. We've heard from the practical aspect from Rashida. We want to hear from her in terms of, how do you stay motivated to pursue continuous learning and growth? At a point in time, you are there. You've won the shoe before. You know how it feels when you're wearing those shoes. So what are you going to share with the audience this morning to stay motivated in order to pursue learning and growth? Over to you, Ms. Adeola.
Thank you. And yes, I really do feel like almost every woman has walked this path before. So let me not lie to you. There are many, many stories and many things that you can do. One of the things that I've found has been helpful for me is to learn how to speak mannerism. What do I mean by mannerism? there's a universal code that men speak. And I learned that through hard knocks over the years. Okay, so let me give an example. The first time I joined a ministerial committee, I was very excited. Oh, I was asked to, I'm part of a ministerial committee. We're working for the industry, it was a big deal for me. And we went through it. They appointed me secretary. I was excited, threw my all in it. And then we submitted, we went, defended it. They said we're coming to the House of Assembly, did everything well. A couple of weeks after, I think about 2 weeks or so afterwards, I got a call from one of the committee members, and he was saying, Madam Secretary, I'm not happy. I just spoke to chair, but I said I must put it down on record. This is very, very bad. After the first, I only got 2 sitting allowances. The last 3, nobody has paid it. Nobody has said anything about those allowances. This is wrong. And I was like, allowance? There was a sitting allowance? Like, I had no clue there was even a sitting allowance in the first place, not to talk about whether it was paid, part of it was paid or not. A lot of those different things that happen over time, over the years. And another example that comes to mind, I was heading a building project, and during the building projects, we had certain things that we said. We had a fixed time that we needed the project to be delivered. So what we did was we decided we're going to make it a fixed term contract. And for those of us that are in the building industry, you know what that means. It means that you also have to fund that project, not the contractor. So we're going to give them 70%. And that also meant that these contractors, because we're giving them 70%, is a lot of money. It was a billion naira project. We decided that we needed them to also give us bonds so that we can secure the client's fund. If any of them walks away, decides to marry another wife, it's fine. We can always collect our money back from the bank. So that's what we asked everybody. But this particular man just kept saying no, he wasn't going to supply a bond. It was the very least of anything that he has done before. He can't supply a bond. And so it became like a power tussle until I told him, you know what, if we have to move on. If you can't give us the bond, then I have to take you off the project. Oh my word. The fireworks, it was terrible. So the client called a meeting, the head of the consultant team called a meeting. So we had a meeting. In the room, there were about 8 of us in the room. I was the only woman, and I was supposed to be leading the project team. And this man was asked to go first. And one of the things, he said everything, why this wasn't going to supply the bond, And then he ended it by saying that, the most painful part for him was the fact that me, who most likely was not born when he started projects, when he started his company, me whose last, he who his last born, a qualified, successful doctor in the US, and I will see her and I will kneel down to greet her. And the one telling him I will throw him off the project. How dare she? And I looked around the room expecting somebody to say, no, you can't use that. Every man just kept quiet, like, I mean, they had sympathetic looks like, oh, she shouldn't have done that. And, I was very, very upset. And I was this close to giving it back to him. But I told myself, no, there's something called manism. Remember, manism. So you know what I did? I told him, honestly, sir, you have done very well. The only reason why you're sitting at this table is because we recognize that your company is an excellent one and does excellent jobs. We wouldn't have even shortlisted you. So your competence is not an issue. And I also applaud you for the success of your daughter. I'm very glad. But the truth is that all of those, your daughter's success and everything the company has done is not going to guarantee my client's money. And that's what we are on this table to discuss, my client's money. So once I brought everybody back to the table, everybody was like, no, sir, you need to apologize. So I shouldn't have said that, But before then, nobody was going to say that. So you must learn how to speak manism. How do you speak manism? There are different ways. So one of the first things is respect. Even when you disagree with a man, you must learn to respect it. Respect them even when you disagree. Respect their time, respect their values, respect the things that they've achieved. That's one way. Another thing is make sure that when you're speaking to them, be appreciative of what they bring to the table. The different aspects of what a man brings to the table. You know, men were mostly old people here, so I think I can say it. You know, they have what is called a dick measuring contest. You know, they don't say it, but when you see a man, you know, they'll call somebody a boss. You know, in a few minutes, they've already arranged themselves. Why? Because they've looked at themselves and decided, oh, this one has more achievements than me, this, that, you know. They don't do the, oh, I'm wearing a more expensive bag. They do the, what have you achieved? What do you bring to the table? So respect, appreciation for what they bring to the table. If you don't respect a man's time, if you're always the one coming late for meetings, if you're always the one that has an excuse when it's time to deliver a project or work, nobody's going to respect you. That's the truth. Men also respect results. If you consistently deliver in your field, you will be very difficult. You remember when Kirsty was speaking, she gave an example and she said, when I first got into the role that she got into, she said, you know, she had a very different approach and everybody was already looking at her like, this one, she doesn't know what she's doing. But guess what? Guess what changed it? She said it. Results. Men don't care if you have to go through rain and high water. They just want to see results. Look, if you consistently deliver results, they will call you into the room. They will bring you seats at the table. And I'm saying this because I've experienced it. About, I think about 4 months ago, we had a meeting with Governor Sanwo-Olu. And when we got there, before the meeting, this protocol team told us, you know, there's a protocol to how we do things, blah, blah, blah. You know, we will arrange you, we'll tell you where to sit. You have to sit on the table where we ask you to sit and all of that. And we were like, okay, no problem. You know, they asked us who we were, our designations and all that. We got into that room and I was looking for my seat. They went and put my seat in one corner around where journalists were sitting, all the cameramen that were angling to see and to cover the event. That's where they put my seat, a place where I would have to do like, you know, extend my neck to even see the governor. That's where they put my seat. I was upset, but they had warned us. And you know, governor is about to come. Coming. So you know what happened? I went to that seat and I asked one of them. I asked, can you hear me?
Yes, you went off a bit, but we can hear you now. You're back.
Okay. So I went to that seat and I was furious. So I asked one of the protocol guys, I said, why exactly am I sitting here? He said, madam, you see, there's no seat. You know, it's not like we're being difficult. There's no seat and all that. I went with a colleague of mine, another management staff, and he expected me to be beside him. When he looked, he didn't see me beside him. He came to me and said, why are you sitting at there? I said, they said we have to sit at a assigned seat and I don't want to make any trouble here. So you know what he did? He said, madam, please go sit over there. He gave me his seat and then he went to the back seat. And guess what happened? In 1 minute, there was no space, so there was magically space. Protocol found space for this man and brought him forward. And that taught me one thing. You see, these biases that we face, they're in everyday little things. But guess what? It was also a man who gave me a seat at the table. You don't earn that if all you do is give excuses when it's time to work. So you must be dependable. You must have results. Results is what men know. They know your onions. You see, there's nothing more disappointing than a woman who has been given an opportunity and she misuses it. I was speaking to a woman that I had admired for many years. She sits on so many boards and it's always been a dream of mine. And I asked her, what's the secret to your success? She said, when I go into the room, I sit down and I smile. I was like, okay, that's all I need to do. Like that's all I need to do. She said, yes. And honestly, I wasn't comfortable with that because I'm not a sit down and smile kind of woman. No, I'm not a troublemaker, but when there's time to speak, when it's time to speak, I speak. because I know that I carry on my shoulders a lot of expectation from other women. You see, every woman here, especially when you get to places and positions of power, whatever you do reflects on how other women will be treated. If you come into the room and you have nothing useful to contribute, they would continue to make us tickers on the board. Let's just say we have women. But when you come into the room and you are able to contribute, what then happens is they start to look for other women who can contribute. So you must be bringing those results to the table. You must be showing up and knowing that there's a higher purpose for why you are where you are. Bear that in mind. So you must know your onions. It's so irritating when you go into a room and they ask a woman and she's flicking her hair and she's like, well, so I'll get back to you. No, please, when you get into that room, speak with facts and figures. That's what men understand. That's part of manism. Speak with facts and figures. Men don't understand even when you say, oh, I need to take my child to the hospital and all that. There was a time at the management meeting, we were talking about a particular lady and they said, you know what, they can't promote her because she's gotten pregnant every year, and she now has 4 kids. She's already pregnant again. And they're like, you know what, she's always going not to be here. It was painful. So what I did was I said, okay, let's not take a final decision on this. Can we pen this for the next time we meet? So what I did was I asked HR, I asked a line manager, and I asked the lady herself, give me a list of the things that you've been able to accomplish and what you've been able to do in the last 4 years. Oh my goodness. When this girl is at work, she's a workhorse. When she's not at work, she's sending us hot things. So I went back to that meeting prepared with facts to say, this is what she's done, this is how she's contributed, this is that. And that leads me to us women also. Don't be afraid to catalog your wins. Know what you've achieved. Don't look down on anything. You see what that little thing you look down on, you'll be amazed how a man will paint it when he gets into the room. The way he will say, oh, I did this, and you're like, but I did that like 4 years ago. But the way a man will paint it. So learn how to celebrate yourself. So listen, I didn't say celebrate yourself. I said, learn how to celebrate yourself. Don't just say, oh, I led the team to do this. No, it's not enough. Because so many people are leading teams. Say, when I led this team, you have to think like a general. When I led this team, this was the challenge that we had to overcome. This is how we overcame this challenge. Not only did we overcome the challenge, we also exceeded expectations by XYZ, 30% increase in this, 40% that in that. Those are the things that men understand. And lastly, please, in all of this, don't be afraid to be a woman. You cannot fight the way a man fights. Don't even try. Men are brutal with themselves. They are brutal in their outlook. So for a man, for most women, we're sensitive. When somebody says something, it hurts you deep. And I heard KSA say it, and I did a, clap when she said that, when she said, you know what, learn not to take feedback, especially when it's negative criticism, learn not to internalize it, but a lot of us are at that stage. And that's one of the reasons why we have this thing where we have this imposter syndrome, because we're constantly thinking and reflecting on that thing somebody said, when they said your hair was not nice, when they said this, when they said that, So men are horrible when they're playing politics. So please be a woman. Don't be afraid to be a woman. I'll give an example. I was on a particular board. It was a particularly difficult board because it was a political board where they brought people from different parts of the country and they threw everybody together. Not everybody had experience or knowledge. They were there because they were appointed by, let's not go into politics, but you know what I mean. And that's why a lot of them were on the board. So a lot of people were not there because they had actual things to contribute. They were there because they were representing their region that had not been represented in the last 5 administrations. So now that we have the opportunity, how can you tell me that those of us from XYZ, you get the point? So this particular board, one time on that board, we were talking about something that we needed to do and things that needed to be done. And the men went at each other. So the chair said, you know what, let's go around the room and let's give feedback for ourselves and let's tell ourselves what we need to do and how we need to make progress. You know what? Nobody spoke about what needed to be done. Everybody went at each other's throats. Daggers were drawn, people were bleeding. It was like, this man, he's never done this, he's never done that, he doesn't have this. I mean, they were brutal. I don't want to repeat, but I'm sure you get the idea of what I mean with how they disseminated themselves, brought in personal things, to abuse themselves at that time. I'm sure we've seen them throwing things at National Assembly.
Yeah,
so
so
it's not new. Sorry. So I'm just gonna land on that. And you know what then happened? I was one of 2 women in the room. The other woman decided, she was going to do the same thing because, they had gone around stabbing everybody. And she also, when it got to her turn, said, look, I've not enjoyed working with XYZ. I align with this. Again, those kind of boards are very political. So people have alliances. And she aligned. And of course, they finished her. She left the room crying. She didn't finish the meeting with us. I decided I was going to be a woman. So what I did, I just first of all called each person by name and said how they contributed to my committee, what they did that I appreciate, what I liked about what they did. When I finished how everybody contributed nicely, I then went on and said the challenges that we were facing and what I think we need to do to move forward. Guess what? It ended the bloodshed that day. And that was how I landed my second committee recommendation. So don't be afraid to be a woman. Know your onions, learn to speak mannerism, deliver results consistently. Those are the strategies that I think I would recommend to any woman for success. And please, your faith in God. I can never, ever emphasize that too much. Your faith in God. It will always be your anchor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Olumeyo. Thank you very, very much. I think today has been awesome. We've been able to achieve the aim of us coming into this session to be able to know how we can overcome barriers. And I like the fact that the coach has said that, yes, there are biases. And also the panelists who have spoken from their own point of view, from they've shared experiences. And Mr. Olumeyo has also talked about the role men play in addressing biases in workplace, wherever you find yourself. She has given us several experiences when she was born, project team and all that. And the fact that, one, we need to respect them, we need to address, appreciate them when they're on the table. And most importantly, you also have to make sure that you produce results. When you produce results, they are able to support you, they're able to speak on your behalf. And then most importantly, also learn how to celebrate yourself. Learn how to celebrate yourself. Those are words. So on this note, I would like to say a very big thank you to our keynote speaker and also to our panelists, Ms. Abiola Olumeyo, Ms. Rasheedat Mohammed. Thank you very much for coming out and then from sharing your experiences. So our coach KSA, thank you from your busy schedule. I know I've been going back and forth and all that. Thank you so much for coming on board. And also to the organizing committee of this webinar session, I would like to say a very big thank you to every one of you. It's been an awesome time working with you. Thank you so much. And to our chairperson also, thank you. I think one of the objectives of the advocacy committee is that whilst we advocate for women's rights, we advocate, speak on behalf of people when there are certain issues that we've dealt with here. We've dealt with sexual harassment, we've dealt with issues where you want to contest for a position in your constituents. As a woman, you are married, and then they've been told that because you are married, but you've lived there for 30 years, but that's not being recognizable. So those are the kind of things that we face, and we come out as advocacy committee. But we also just thought that once we are advocating, we need to also get to a point where we coach ourselves about the fact that there are barriers. We can overcome those barriers. We also need to have a growth mindset. What do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? And in doing that, we also have, apart from this kind of workshop, we do a lot of inspiring sessions where we invite women that have achieved, they are in their later part of the career progression. And I think today everybody is going back home, going back to your work to know that, yes, there are biases. Yes, there are challenges. You would overcome those challenges. And most importantly, you're going to have growth mindset. So on this note, I would like to say, thank you for coming. I think we've gone over and above. We're supposed to be from 10 to 12 noon, but now it's 12:21 p.m. Thank you so much, and have a very, very good day. Watch out for MBA Women Forum programs, as we always do. And like the chairperson said, if you've not registered for the MBA conference, please do register, and also watch out for our programs. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.